Tesla robots are coming, Tesla Semi is coming, Tesla Cybercab is coming, and all of these may on the surface appear to just be products, but they're not, and they could require a whole philosophical change in the way we think about things, including the world itself. That's what we're here to discuss, is how these changes will impact everything. And when I say we, I mean Jon Twigge from the UK, a software engineer sort of fella who is very bright and has been on the channel a number of times, and we're glad to have him back in this, the thrilling conclusion of part 3. He did not know it was going to be thrilling, but I have had Amazon Prime deliver him some next day bees, so we'll see how that goes. I'm Brian, welcome to Futuraza. Yeah, did you get your 2-day Prime Hornets?
I'm checking the mail to see if it's arrived.
Yeah, it's probably.
I've already concluded that all of your videos are thrilling, so that's fine.
Thank you. It's unfortunate. I periodically will run into people on X. I saw a poll conducted by Sawyer saying, what is the more affordable vehicle going to be? And 32% of respondents in this fairly large poll said, oh, it'll just be the Cybercab with a steering wheel. And I'm thinking, I've spent hours on this. I've spent hours explaining it. Yes, but someone who hasn't talked to any engineers and doesn't leave the studio says otherwise.
Yes, I heard you talking about where they're going to build the Cybercab, and there were suggestions that it could be built on a Model Y line, which is like crazy. I mean, a Model Y line is creating a new Model Y every 40 seconds or something crazy. Why would you stop that to do something that doesn't fit?
That doesn't fit.
The new one has to be extremely similar in many respects to fit on the same line. That's the whole issue with those lines. They're long, they're big, they're built for big frames of cars, and that's all they can do.
Yes.
The idea that you would do an unboxed process on it is just bizarre.
It'd be like building a Model Y on the Semi line or building Optimus on the Model Y line. We know that whatever it is will be built on the Model 3 or Y line. That's just what we know. So yes, and then I have people on X saying, well, can you explain it to me in 180 characters? No, I can give you a couple bullet points, but I know you're going to ask for more, and they always do.
Well, you see those toys for toddlers where they have to put the shapes through the holes. It's that the stars don't fit in the square shapes. I mean, that's how it is.
Yes. Explain it to me like I'm not 5, like I'm less than 5. I can't. So one thing you'd said in this post that spurred this whole discussion was, do not forget, Tesla will soon have many semi-trucks transporting parts throughout the supply chain as cheaply and efficiently as possible. The world will get the fastest scaling product we've ever seen. So the thing is, and we've touched on this in the previous 2 parts, is some of these products require a different mindset. When I went to see the Juniper at the showroom in Bellevue, I said, boy, the Juniper's really overshadowing the Cybercab. They go, yeah, we've had a lot of people come in and look at the Cybercab, but not today. They will look at it because it's here, but that's, I said, how much do you know about the Cybercab? Is there anything you could teach me? And they go, we know nothing. We know what's published. And I said, what would you like to know? So they asked me questions. The biggest question was those doors. He goes, what happens if, there's a tree there? And I said, why would the car stop where there's a tree? It can see that there's a tree, go 5 more feet and then open the door. He's like, oh yeah, right. And I said, that applies equally to parking spaces. Well, I'm afraid I'm going to ding the doors. Why are you getting out of the car in a parking space? Get out at the front like a valet. Let the car do its thing.
It's a cab. You don't put a cab in a garage.
Right? Look at the size of the old New York yellow cabs. Yellow Cab was a company. They made their own cars. Those cars are big and boxy, and I wouldn't want to parallel park one in a city like New York, but I'd ride in one. Why would I care?
And of course, the world will begin to change. Big hotels, big restaurants, they'll put more of the valet parking in, or it won't be parking as such, but those special little road around the front of so that they can handle far more taxis, because the nature of the visitors will change. People want to drink. Less people will want to come in their own cars inherently because it's actually cheaper, safer, better, more convenient. being dropped right outside the door.
And how much smaller can a parking lot be if we don't need to leave door ding room between the cars? You can just ignore the lines on the pavement. The cars can just squeeze in as tight as they want. They can go butts to nuts and move out of the way as needed. Go 10 deep if they have to. Why would anyone care? I would rather have more green space and cars packed tightly together. And there was a feature that Kyle Connor talked about that's already available in China on the Avatar E9, U9, A9, something on one of the Avatar cars. And it is, they got to the mall and there was no parking space. So they just got out and left it. And the car wandered around until it found a parking spot and then it parked. And when you're done, you just summon it back. And if it doesn't find a parking spot, it'll just keep circling. Just keep circling.
Of course, we're talking cabs anyway. It'll go and look after somebody else.
Right. Well,
most people won't be in their own car anyway. This changes the nature of cities. We'll find that it might take a couple of decades to change completely, but planning will change. Why would a big shopping mall want big parking? It's a waste of space. It's a waste of time building it. It's a waste of resources. The return on their investment, if you're wasting 3/4. I look at the map of the Trafford Centre in Manchester, one of the biggest outside London in the UK, and it's 4/5 is parking.
Absolutely.
What a huge waste of space. So, yeah, absolutely. And that also, out of town places work because they've got space to build the parking. You don't need that anymore. It actually returns back to the city centres where you can put a whole variety, and actually people that haven't got jobs anymore can open up a little store, have their own crafts, all sorts of things. And we're actually bringing a community of a town centre, city centre back, away from those soulless big shopping malls that have got the big stores all over the place. They're the same everywhere you go. So, yeah, society is going to change.
I had someone say I would buy a Cybercab, I would have it drive me to work, and then I would send it all off all day to earn fares. And at the end of the day, I would make sure that it stops doing fares soon enough so it could get back to me to drive me home. And I said, well, if it's collecting fares, why wouldn't you let it just keep going and take someone else's cab home? It's exact same as yours. You don't leave your personal stuff in a car that you're renting out, and neither does the person whose car you're using. Just use it. Just go home. One guy was saying, I'd want to buy 10 of these for the church to get the folks in on Sunday who can no longer drive. And I said, well, if you're going to do that, then you need to send them out all week to raise money. Now the church is well funded. And if you're going to do that, why stop there on Sunday? Now you can hire 30 of them to bring people in instead of 10. And for that matter, if you can't afford $250,000 or $500,000 worth of Cybercabs, just rent them. Just say,
here's a little nugget for you in that respect. Take a Cybercab. If you've got a trade and you're a plumber, you've got a whole van full of equipment. They'll be saying, oh, we can't manage with a cab. We've got all our stuff. Cybercab has got a fairly big size at the back. You could imagine a case that dropped in, all their essential tools, pull it out, cab carries on, and then a couple of Optimus put it back in when they're finished. But what about all the equipment? What about all the material? Gets delivered by another cab.
Right.
The whole thing starts to shift, and even a trade. I mean, obviously, if you've got a giant truck full of lots of stuff, it might make sense for some people, but that truck will sit there all day doing nothing if it belongs to one person. So even most trades won't need to have a dedicated truck.
I don't know. So I know my brother was an electrician until he recently retired, after spending years not coming out and doing the work here that he said he would. Still a little salty about that. But the amount of equipment in his van would not be human movable. He would still, for his electrical business, there's just too many odds and ends that you would need to for his use case, but maybe not so for a roofer. Maybe a roofer just needs nails and hammers and especially with roofing, most of that material is delivered directly because it's so heavy and so bulky that you wouldn't want to move it in your own pickup truck. And a lot of those guys will deliver straight to the roof. Turns out Lowe's will not. I found out the hard way. And in my 40s, got to pack an entire roof load up to the roof myself. It's only 2 stories. It was fun. Sore for days. Anyway, these are the rethinks we need to have. And I can't, but I'm going to need a weird light fixture at the last minute that I could have in my van. Right. But what if it's only $3 to have it delivered? What if you just order it on your app from Home Depot or Lowe's or whomever, and they walk outside and drop it in a cab, and 10 minutes later it's at your job site? You have saved money. Your time is worth more than the delivery fee to get it there. You're saving money. So,
well, we can go a little further.
I'm ready.
All these people will have an Optimus assistant doing things. We've seen a voice interface announced, not quite ready yet. We haven't quite seen it working. But the plumber will say to his Optimus, get me one of those, electronically connected, ordered in 30 seconds, 10 seconds. And the Optimus will pop out 3 minutes later, pick it up and bring it in for you.
A good example of that is unusual drill bits that break on the job. My brother has had that happen where he's got, either the 2-inch drill bit or the one that can go through whatever it is. Yeah. Wouldn't that be something if you go up, this is broken, hand it, and Optimus never leaves your side. 10, 15 minutes later, a cab shows up and Optimus is like, here you go.
And that's where I think Tesla might even disrupt Amazon, because the Cybercab, the robo-taxi network, is going to be so much everywhere that why not have it delivering things as well?
Why not? All good points. We have gotten pretty far afield. Guys, what are some disruptions? If we can think of any more, we will get to them here in just a second. But in the comments, I want to know what kind of rethink of how things work will be required. I would say that in the movie Logan, the last Wolverine movie, we saw self-driving semis that did not have a cabin. Why would they? It was just a motor section that went under the front of the shipping container. It was basically just a shipping container with back wheels. They're a lot smaller. They're a lot lighter. They're potentially better aerodynamics. You could just put a little cone on the front, a little wind deflector there. I think that would be a more reasonable approach. But you don't need that cabin. You don't need all that human space. That increases the amount of weight you can carry. That increases your efficiency. What else are we not rethinking far enough?
I wrote that in one of my posts maybe 6 months, a year ago, that imagine the tunnels, the Boring Company. Why would you need anything other than a sledge with a container on it, on autonomous driving? And you've suddenly got a delivery network, completely invisible, much nicer roads for us humans on the surface, and all of our goods are getting delivered quietly underground, out of the way.
We call that Disney World, because in Disneyland, apparently Walt Disney saw a cowboy walking through Tomorrowland and he was like, absolutely not. So they dug tunnels for employees. So when they built Disney World, they just built everything 1 floor above grade so we don't have to dig. Everything's got a basement. That's how we get around. And wouldn't it be great? I mean, I'm sure you've been to cities large enough where the trash can on the sidewalk is not a trash can. It's a dumpster below the sidewalk. So when you drop something in, it falls 10 feet into a pile of, I assume, rats. But they throw the rats out daily, so that's helpful.
Yeah, we're not as civilized as that here. In Manchester, if you get to some particularly busy bits with lots of restaurants, there are literally piles of trash bags and rats because they're producing so much. So, yes, a complete underground network could transform the nature of we've got too many roads that split the countryside up. We may be talking decades away, but we've got to start somewhere. And exciting news that we saw in Dubai, they're going for a loop. Dubai is 11 times, I looked up, the size of Vegas. And they have the money. That will be fascinating to see how that rolls out across the whole of Dubai. And for a model of delivery that could service all big cities, transforming them. Exciting.
And Dubai is not on bedrock, so I think they would be able to tunnel reasonably quickly compared to, say, like the Swiss Alps project that took much longer and cost vastly more. Of course, those tunnels are also much larger. Yeah, we're going to have to think differently. This goes back to the old Henry Ford thing. If you ask people what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse. That's the wrong way of thinking. If you'd have asked me what I wanted, I'd have said Manhattan without 6 metric tons of manure per city block per minute. But hey, different. You can't smell the photographs unless you've ever been around a farm enough, and then you see those pictures and then you can smell them. I think we've gone on quite long enough. Well, I'm sure we'll have John back soon. Everybody in the comments, like, subscribe, let us know what we missed, what we misunderstood, and stay tuned, stay juicy. I cannot wait to hear from you, clever robots, on the next one.
And thank you.